What if the history of our world was written not by ink on parchment, but carved into spiraling grooves of stone thousands of years ago? Deep in the desolate, windswept reaches of the Bayan Har Mountains on the border of China and Tibet, a discovery was made that defies the conventional timeline of human civilization. In the year 1938, an archaeological expedition led by Professor Kai Pu-te stumbled upon a network of caves that seemed to belong to no known culture. Within these dusty, silent chambers, they found skeletons of a strange, diminutive race with oversized, fragile skulls buried in the earth. But the true enigma lay beside them. Embedded in the rocky soil were hundreds of circular stone discs, each measuring roughly a foot in diameter. At the center of every disc was a perfectly drilled hole, from which a continuous, narrow groove spiraled outward toward the rim. To the naked eye, these looked like primitive artifacts, yet under closer inspection, the grooves revealed something impossible. They were not merely ornamental, they appeared to be microscopic inscriptions, a complex system of hieroglyphics that seemed to narrate a catastrophic event from the stars. Some theorists suggest these discs are evidence of a crashed spacecraft and a forgotten encounter with beings from another world, while skeptics dismiss them as nothing more than ritualistic burial objects. Yet, when analyzed by experts in the mid-20th century, the stone was found to contain an unusually high concentration of cobalt and metallic particles, possessing physical properties that should not exist in such simple tools. Whether these are remnants of a lost terrestrial dynasty or a warning from beyond our atmosphere, the discs remain a haunting physical anomaly. They are silent witnesses to a narrative that history books refuse to acknowledge, leaving us to wonder. What exactly did those ancient hands try to record before they vanished into the dust of time? The truth remains buried in the silence of the mountains, waiting for someone to decode the song of the stone. Could the maps of our ancestors hold a secret that defies everything we know about the history of our planet? Imagine reaching into a dusty archive and pulling out a fragment of gazelle's skin, covered in ink that has survived for centuries, only to realize it depicts a coastline that should not have been visible for thousands of years. We are talking about the Piri Reis map, a nautical chart drawn by an Ottoman admiral in the year 1513. While it is famous for its accurate rendering of the Americas, the true nightmare lies in the southern reaches of the parchment. There, etched with chilling precision, is the coastline of Antarctica, the Queen Maud land region, completely free of ice. Modern science tells us that Antarctica was covered by a massive, frozen shroud millions of years before humanity even learned to forge iron. Yet, here is a document that suggests someone, somewhere, saw those shores when the landscape was verdant and navigable. Some historians argue this is merely a trick of perspective or a copy of a lost Greek map, but the cartographic accuracy is unnerving. How could a sailor from the 16th century trace the topography of a subglacial continent that was not officially discovered until the year 1820? One theory suggests that these charts were synthesized from even older, long-forgotten sources, remnants of a civilization that charted the world before the great shifts of the poles. If these maps are accurate, we are forced to confront an unsettling truth. Either our history books are fundamentally broken, or someone was mapping the globe long before we supposedly stepped out of the shadows. As you trace those ink-stained, ice-free mountains, you have to wonder, what else were they looking at, and where did that knowledge truly originate? The silence of the ice is deep, but the maps are beginning to speak. Could a civilization that vanished into the depths of time have mastered the art of carving the very foundations of the ocean floor? Deep beneath the turquoise surface off the coast of Yonaguni-jima in Japan lies a structure that defies every convention of natural geology. It is not merely a collection of rocks. It is a sprawling, silent geometry of massive platforms, sharp right angles, and sweeping terraces that stretch across the seabed like the remains of a sunken metropolis. When diver Chihachiro Aratake first stumbled upon these monoliths in the year 1987, the scientific community was quick to dismiss them as natural sandstone formations, the result of tectonic plates shifting and eroding over millennia. But as you descend through the cool, dark currents to witness the site firsthand, the theory of nature as an artist begins to crumble. How could natural erosion carve perfectly square holes, intricate staircases, and walls that rise with such unnerving mathematical precision? Some researchers argue that we are looking at the ruins of a forgotten era, a sanctuary built when the sea levels were far lower, thousands of years before the rise of the pyramids. They point to the vast, carved-out plazas and what appear to be gateways, suggesting that a sophisticated, unknown culture once walked here. Yet, others maintain their rigid skepticism, unable to reconcile these ruins with the accepted timeline of human history. As you hover above the silent, stone geometry, you cannot shake the feeling that you are staring into the eyes of a secret that the ocean has guarded for an eternity. Is this a cradle of an ancient society, or is the Earth capable of mimicry so precise that it mocks our understanding of human progress? The silent monoliths remain, anchored to the dark seabed, offering no answers, only the cold, crushing weight of a mystery that refuses to be solved. Imagine descending deep into the Maltese bedrock, far beneath the bustling streets of Paula, where the air turns heavy and the silence possesses a weight of its own. You are standing within the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, a subterranean necropolis carved directly into the living rock over 5,000 years ago. What forces compelled an ancient, Neolithic civilization to labor for generations, excavating thousands of tons of limestone with nothing but obsidian and flint tools? But the physical construction is only the beginning of the mystery. As you step into the oracle chamber, the atmosphere shifts. There is a peculiar acoustic perfection here that defies natural explanation. If a man speaks in a deep, resonant voice, the sound does not simply bounce off the walls. It amplifies and vibrates through the entire structure, turning the very stone into a living instrument. Some researchers believe this chamber was intentionally engineered to produce a specific frequency, approximately 110 Hz, which resonates with the human brain, potentially inducing altered states of consciousness or trance-like experiences during ancient rituals. How did a primitive society possess the sophisticated architectural knowledge to manipulate sound waves with such surgical precision? There are no blueprints, no explanations, only the cold, unyielding stone that hums with secrets long forgotten. As you run your hand across the ochre-painted walls, you cannot shake the feeling that you are standing in a place not designed for the living, but for something that required a vibration beyond our comprehension. Who were these architects, and why were they so obsessed with the physics of sound? The silence of the hypogeum offers no answers, only a persistent, echoing question that vibrates in your marrow long after you leave the darkness behind. What if the greatest treasure map in history was hidden in plain sight, etched not onto parchment or papyrus, but cold, unforgiving copper? Imagine unrolling a scroll so brittle that the mere touch of air could turn it to dust, only to discover it contains no psalms, no prophecies, and no prayers. Instead, you find a stark, clinical list of 64 locations, each pointing to massive quantities of gold, silver, and precious vessels hidden deep within the Judean wilderness. This is the Copper Scroll, the black sheep of the Dead Sea Scrolls collection, and perhaps the most taunting mystery ever retrieved from the caves of Qumran. While its companions were written in ink on animal skins, this anomaly was hammered into heavy metal sheets, suggesting that whoever composed it intended for the information to survive the end of the world itself. Some researchers believe this is a meticulous inventory of the Second Temple's lost treasures, spirited away before the Roman legions leveled Jerusalem in the year 70 AD. But here lies the chilling paradox. The descriptions are so cryptic, referencing obscure landmarks like the Valley of Achor or the Tomb of the Sons of Hakin, that despite decades of intensive expeditions, not a single bar of that immense wealth has ever been recovered. It is as if the earth itself refuses to yield the hoard. Does the scroll lead to a phantom fortune, a desperate myth born of ancient survivalists, or is it a map to a burial ground that still holds its secrets beneath the scorching desert sands? Waiting for a key that has been lost for 2 millennia, we are left clutching a literal roadmap to impossible riches, standing at the edge of the desert, knowing that the treasure is somewhere beneath our feet, yet completely beyond our reach. What if you were tasked with carving a skyscraper out of solid rock using nothing but stone tools, only to abandon it when it was nearly finished? Deep in the ancient granite quarries of Aswan, Egypt, lies a silent titan that defies the logic of history. It is the unfinished obelisk, a monolith of such staggering proportions that it humbles everyone who stands before its jagged, exposed face. Had it been successfully extracted and erected, it would have towered over 130 feet into the sky, weighing a mind-bending 1,200 tons. That is the equivalent of 200 African elephants standing in a single vertical line. But the most haunting aspect is not its size. It is the mystery of why it was forsaken. As you trace your fingers along the deep trenches carved into the bedrock, you notice something unsettling. The walls of the quarry are marked by perfectly rounded, rhythmic indentations. Conventional archaeology suggests that ancient laborers used dolerite pounders to smash away the granite, yet the sheer physical impossibility of such a feat remains a point of intense debate. Some researchers argue that the level of precision and the speed required to clear such immense amounts of stone suggest techniques that remain lost to time. Others point to a massive crack that appeared in the granite, causing the project to be abandoned in an instant. But look closer at the grain of the rock. Did the stone itself reject the tools, or did an entire civilization vanish before the final blow could be struck? The obelisk remains tethered to the earth, a frozen moment of ambition caught in the grip of an ancient, unsolved silence. What tools could have carved such hardness, and what catastrophic event silenced the chisels of 1,000 workers on a single, fateful day? We may never know what power commanded its creation or what forced its ultimate abandonment. Could a single man, frail and unassuming, possess the strength to bend the very laws of physics to his will? In the sun-drenched landscape of Homestead, Florida, stands a monument that defies every engineering principle we hold dear. Ed Leedskalnin, an immigrant barely 5 feet tall, spent nearly 30 years carving, moving, and stacking massive blocks of oolitic limestone to create the Coral Castle. Some stones weigh over 30 tons, twice the weight of the massive blocks used to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. Yet, there were no heavy cranes, no pulleys, and no organized crews of laborers to assist him. Neighbors reported seeing the blocks levitating into place, as if gravity had simply ceased to exist in his presence, moving with the fluid grace of balloons tethered in a gentle breeze. When asked how he achieved such a feat, Leedskalnin would only whisper cryptic claims about understanding the secrets of magnetism and the lost vibrations of the ancient builders. He worked strictly under the veil of darkness, hiding his methods behind high walls, refusing to let any living soul witness the true nature of his work. Was he merely a master of complex mechanical leverage, as skeptics insist, or had he unlocked a forgotten resonance that allowed him to neutralize the heavy pull of the earth? Even today, modern engineers stand before these monoliths, baffled by the perfect balance and the precision of the joints, unable to replicate his techniques with all our heavy machinery. The castle remains a silent, stone sentinel, guarding a secret that died with its maker, leaving us to wonder if the secrets of the ancients are far more tangible than we dare to imagine. Have you ever looked at a landscape and felt, deep in your marrow, that the soil beneath your feet was hiding a secret too heavy for history to bear? Deep within the dense, suffocating canopy of the Honduran rainforest lies the legendary White City, or the City of the Monkey God. For centuries, explorers whispered of golden cities and towering stone idols buried under layers of vines and rot. But for a long time, the world dismissed these stories as mere folklore born of fever dreams. Yet, the earth does not lie. When researchers finally pierced through the thick veil of the jungle, they did not find just ruins. They found an intricate, haunting testament to a civilization that effectively vanished from human memory without leaving a single name or script behind. What stood before them were not just stone foundations, but ceremonial mounds and artifacts, stunning, carved vessels depicting half-human, half-animal figures that seemed to stare with ancient, judging eyes. The mystery here is not just about where these people went, but who they were. Some believe they were a culture entirely distinct from the Maya, living in sophisticated isolation, thriving in a place that eventually became a tomb for their identity. Why would a society capable of such monumental architecture simply dissolve into the shadows of the forest? Was it a sudden environmental catastrophe, an unseen plague, or something even more unsettling that drove them to abandon their homes so completely that not a single oral history remains to tell their tale? As you stand among these silent, weathered carvings, you can almost hear the final, fading echo of a culture that turned its back on the world, leaving us only with cold stone masks and the suffocating silence of the deep woods. What truly happened in the heart of that emerald darkness? Perhaps some stories are meant to remain buried, protected by the very silence that claimed them. Throughout these vast continents, and across the span of uncounted centuries, we are constantly confronted by the shadows of those who came before us. Every stone, every map, every underground chamber whispers a tale of ambition, mastery, and eventual dissolution. We look at the artifacts and we search for the logic, we hunt for the tools, and we demand an explanation that fits our modern understanding of how humanity evolved. Yet, time and again, the physical evidence forces us to pause. It challenges the timeline we have been taught, and it mocks the certainty of our progress. We see the precision of the stonecutters, the astronomical awareness of the navigators, and the acoustic mastery of the builders. And we must ask ourselves the most difficult question of all. If they reach such heights, and if they possess such profound knowledge, why are they gone? Perhaps they were never meant to be solved. Perhaps these mysteries serve as a mirror, showing us that our own civilization, as loud and as proud as it stands today, is just another layer of sediment waiting to be covered by the relentless, encroaching green of the forest or the cooling sands of the desert. The silence is not a void. It is a weight. It is the accumulated history of a billion moments that have slipped through the fingers of time, leaving only the ruins for us to stumble upon. As we continue to gaze into these abysses, we do not just learn about the past. We confront the fragility of our own existence. Maybe the answer lies not in a sudden cataclysm, but in the slow, inevitable cycle of growth and decay that governs all living things. The artifacts are cold, but they carry the heat of human endeavor. The maps are faded, but they point to truths we have forgotten how to read. And the monoliths, standing tall in their lonely fields or resting deep in the ocean, are the final, silent guardians of a narrative that is larger, older, and far more terrifying than we dare to believe. When the wind blows through the canyons of Aswan, or the rain falls on the ruins of the White City, listen closely. They are still talking. They are telling us that for every answer we uncover, 10 new questions are born. History is not a straight line, but a complex, spiraling groove, much like those ancient stone discs, circling back toward a beginning that remains shrouded in the mist of antiquity. We remain, as we have always been, students of the dust, trying to reconstruct a masterpiece from a few shattered fragments. The mystery is infinite, the silence is absolute, and we are merely the next in line to listen.